Foster Brooks tragically died after revealing himself to be involved in his daughter's death. Foster Brooks was a beloved American actor and comedian, best known for his comedic portrayal of a lovable drunk. His unique brand of humor made him a household name during the 1960s and 1970s, leaving an indelible mark on the entertainment industry. Despite his exaggerated drunken persona, Brooks was actually a committed professional who did not drink alcohol in real life, making his convincing performance all the more remarkable. Over the years, he became an iconic figure, celebrated for his impeccable timing, physical comedy, and the ability to bring laughter to audiences of all ages. Foster Brooks was born on May 11, 1912, in Louisville, Kentucky, into a family that had a deep connection to the entertainment world. His father was a reputable broadcaster, and Brooks himself started his career in the media as a radio announcer and newscaster. This early exposure to the world of performance laid the groundwork for his eventual foray into comedy. In his youth, he developed a love for performing and entertained local audiences with his wit and charm, though it would be years before his comedic genius would reach a wider audience. After a stint in broadcasting, Brooks moved to Los Angeles in the 1950s, where he attempted to establish himself as an actor. He took on small roles in television and film, yet it wasn't until he discovered his famous drunk act that his career took off. As he worked in various jobs, including television, voice work, and acting in minor roles, Brooks honed his comedic skills, often experimenting with different characters and comedic styles. Foster Brooks' big break came when he perfected his drunken man routine, which would become his signature act. During a performance at a charity event, Brooks mimicked a tipsy airline pilot who hilariously fumbled his way through a speech. The audience's uproarious laughter encouraged him to continue developing the character. His lovable drunk persona was a well-crafted comedic act that relied on his ability to slur his words, stumble through sentences, and deliver punchlines with perfect timing. What set Brooks apart was his ability to present this character in a non-threatening, endearing way. He never portrayed the drunk in a malicious or harmful light. Instead, he made the character relatable and amusing, allowing audiences to laugh without feeling uncomfortable. In an era when humor was often more conservative, Brooks managed to navigate the delicate balance between comedic exaggeration and genuine warmth. This character not only resonated with audiences but also became an enduring part of his legacy. Foster Brooks's rise to national fame was cemented when he became a regular guest on The Dean Martin Show and the widely popular Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts during the 1970s. These shows featured Brooks in his drunk persona, roasting major celebrities with slurred but sharp-witted insults, all delivered with an air of affable cluelessness. His interactions with the likes of Frank Sinatra, Johnny Carson, and Lucille Ball became legendary, as his impeccable comedic timing and clever improvisation left both the audience and his fellow performers in stitches. The Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts were particularly significant in Brooks' career, as they allowed him to showcase his talent alongside some of the biggest names in Hollywood. He became a fan favorite, not only because of his hilarious routines but also because of his unique ability to steal the spotlight with his subtle yet outrageous humor. While many of his contemporaries used physical slapstick or rapid-fire dialogue, Brooks' humor was slower and more deliberate, giving audiences time to savor each comedic moment. Beyond his appearances on The Dean Martin Show and the Celebrity Roasts, Brooks enjoyed a successful career in television and film. He made numerous guest appearances on popular TV shows of the era, including The Love Boat, Mork and Mindy, Chips, and The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Each appearance showcased his versatility as a comedian and actor. While his drunk persona was his claim to fame, Brooks proved himself capable of performing a wide range of comedic and even dramatic roles. His film credits include appearances in movies such as Cannonball Run 2 and The Villain, where he often played offbeat and humorous supporting characters. Foster Brooks was a beloved comedian best known for his drunk act, which made him a staple on television variety shows and roasts throughout the 1970s and 1980s. However, beneath the laughter, Brooks faced a personal tragedy that haunted him for much of his life, one involving the untimely death of his infant daughter, Diane. This incident would eventually cast a shadow over his career and personal life, culminating in rumors that he held himself responsible for her death. Brooks was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and began his career in radio before making the leap to television. His first marriage was to Loretta Brooks, and together they had 4 children: F. Richard, Joanne, Patricia, and Diane. While his professional life was flourishing, his personal life was marred by heartbreak. His daughter Diane died in infancy, a devastating event that would forever alter the course of Brooks' life. The strain of the tragedy played a significant role in the eventual breakdown of his marriage to Loretta, and the two divorced in 1950. The loss of a child is a pain few can understand, and for Brooks, the tragedy deeply affected him. Diane's death led to rumors that Brooks harbored immense guilt and even saw himself as responsible in some way. Whether it was a freak accident or an issue beyond his control, the specifics of Diane's death remained largely private, but Brooks' emotional burden was evident to those who knew him best. That same year, he remarried Terry Brooks, with whom he would have 2 more daughters, Scotty and Terry. This new chapter in his life brought some solace, but the emotional weight of his past continued to linger. Brooks threw himself into his work, using humor as a form of escapism, but privately, he remained affected by the loss of his daughter. Friends and family members reportedly observed that Brooks would sometimes bring up Diane during moments of reflection, often accompanied by a sense of unresolved grief. Foster Brooks also came from an entertainment family, with his brother Tom Brooks making a name for himself in Louisville as a local television personality. Tom played the character Cactus, a sidekick on the popular shows T-Bar V-Ranch and Hayloft Hoedown. Despite the fame and success surrounding him, Foster struggled to reconcile his public persona as a comedian with the private sorrow he carried over his daughter's death. Brooks's career took off in the 1960s when he began making appearances on national television, becoming a regular on the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. His exaggerated drunk persona was an instant hit, and audiences loved his ability to mix slurred speech with impeccable comedic timing. Yet, even as he made people laugh, Brooks dealt with his own struggles. The tragedy of Diane's death weighed heavily on his conscience, and some reports suggest that his guilt became a motivating factor behind his comedic persona. Playing the drunk character may have been, in some ways, a means for Brooks to channel his personal pain into his art, masking his feelings of failure and grief with humor. As his fame grew, so did the questions surrounding Diane's death. In later interviews, Brooks was asked about his family and his personal life, but he rarely spoke about Diane. When he did, it was often in vague or distant terms, as though he could not bring himself to fully confront the circumstances of her death. Whether he saw himself as responsible due to some tragic accident or simply felt the weight of a father's grief is unknown, but it is clear that the incident cast a long shadow over his life. Brooks continued to entertain audiences well into his later years, but as he aged, his health began to decline. His heart was weak, and he eventually succumbed to heart failure on December 20, 2001, at the age of 89. His death marked the end of a long and successful career, but it also reignited interest in his personal life, particularly the rumors surrounding Diane's death. After his passing, some biographers and close family members began to speak more openly about Brooks's struggles with guilt and loss. While there was never any formal investigation or public revelation linking Brooks directly to Diane's death, the whispers persisted. Whether these were simply the result of a father's grief or something more remains unclear, but for those who knew Brooks, it was apparent that the loss of his daughter haunted him throughout his life. In death, Brooks was remembered for his humor and talent, but his personal tragedy was an inseparable part of his story. As fans looked back on his life, they couldn't help but wonder how much of Brooks' drunk act was a reflection of the emotional turmoil he carried with him, masking the deep sorrow he felt over the loss of his daughter, Diane.